Okay, Walker. We started working with Walker. You've heard us talk with him a little bit just 5 months ago as well, and I feel like you've made a lot of transitions. So why don't you talk about that?
Well, I made transitions in, obviously I had my marketing. You all know about my marketing. In case you missed it, I had, wrong phone number, no website, no business card.
And
my
still
marketing,
had a pretty good business, which is amazing, right?
Yeah, it was all word of mouth, but, it was pretty much, my marketing plan was hope. I just hope that I do a good job, hope people notice, and hope I get the next job. So totally out of my control. And, just hoping that people notice me. And it has worked, but I felt like that wasn't a sustainable future. So I, stepped up and have a simplified website coming pretty soon, mostly, photographs and testimonials, very little text or wording, but, we'll see about that. So anyway, marketing, never emphasized that at all, started to, emphasize that. Delegating, had a hard time kind of letting go, especially, my finished product is everything, and I was worried that if I asked somebody else to do something and didn't get done like I wanted it, that, I would not get any more business out of it. So it was really hard to let go of that. Have done that actually on, what you realize, there's a lot of tasks that you do you think are really important, but I'll give you an example. Porta-John's not that important. I don't really need to order every Porta-John that comes to our job. So there's certain tasks in my business that I was, able to just let other people deal with, and it works out actually, like Steve said, sometimes a lot better.
Yeah.
So how do you do Porta-Johns better?
Well, that's, I don't know.
I don't know either. But I get
I always use vanilla, smell, so there's other aromas I didn't know about. So,
fascinating.
Yeah. So there's a good example. So I guess letting go of just delegation and trusting that you have good people around you and that some better ideas can come from it.
Yeah.
Every Porta-John that comes to our job. So there's certain tasks in my business that I was able to just let other people deal with, and it works out actually, like Steve said, sometimes a lot better.
Yeah.
So how do you do Porta-Johns better?
Well, that's I don't know.
I don't know either. But I get
I always use vanilla, smell, so there's other aromas I didn't know about. So,
fascinating.
Yeah. So there's a good example. So I guess letting go of just delegation and trusting that you have good people around you and that some better ideas can come from it.
Yeah. Another thing I think of is we've really worked on the systems, again, with you as well, within your business.
Yeah, a lot of my business is in my head, just intuition and habit and conversation and a lot of those dangerous things that make me so important to the business, or at least I thought. And so we haven't finished it yet, but working on, putting the systems in place so that I could do some things that I'm better at and not have to be the one that answers every question. We're not there yet.
Yeah, but you're on your way.
Yeah,
it's literally writing. It's I guess we won't go into too much detail, but it's figuring out systems so that his assistants, he's hired an assistant now, who's working out pretty well, and he needed some systems with what she does so that just so she's clear with it, he knows what she's doing, and if she doesn't work out, because not everybody works out all the time, you pass that system on to the next person. So it's just starting to create those systems and also the marketing. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so next year, do you feel good about where you're headed?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do. I mean, I feel I worked all the time. I worked 7 days a week, I'm addicted to my BlackBerry email. I'm sure a lot of people in this room have that problem. And Steve, she said, you're more relaxed. I'm sure my wife and my kids would say the same thing. You just sort of say, hey, no one's going to die if I don't, check my email tonight. Right. So it just sort of helps with your sort of overall, I'm sure I'm a better person because I don't feel like I have to work all the time.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Walker.
Yep.
Okay, let's go down to Crystal. So Crystal, we started working with you also about 5 months ago. 6 months? 5 or 6 months? No? Yeah, I think so.
I'm a mom of a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, so
you have no idea about time.
I get lost quickly.
We're glad she's here. She made it here. That's right. She's got an adorable 2 little kids. So think about before we started, kind of how things were going for you and what some of the shifts have been.
I think the biggest shift for me was actually this is the first time that I faced some serious challenge. It's easy to make the first sale, 2 sales, 3 sales, but when you actually kind of hit the wall, and it will happen at times, how to own that and how to answer it. And I mean, I remember having conversations with Bria saying, oh my God, I have no idea how to solve this problem. And I think the biggest shift for me was, first of all, it's not the end of the world. Life goes on.
Yeah.
And two is, okay, how are you gonna think through it? And it was, I remember thinking, I really hope that's not my cell phone. I don't have a boss, and that was a real kind of mental shift for me. Is I can't go and ask my boss for advice, and I don't have somebody giving me the answers. But once I made that shift, and once I realized, you are going to screw up sometimes, and that just dealing with that and kind of feeling comfortable in that, it was incredibly liberating. And it's like, okay, and just kind of starting to put it into context and saying, okay, this is just a small part, and we know this is a small part of my business, and it's, I'm not putting all my eggs in one basket, and it's just kind of keeping that long vision in, keeping that in your frame of mind, knowing that, maybe I shouldn't be developing more of these types of projects, maybe I should move elsewhere, but just keep going forward when you hit the wall.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I feel like you have gotten much more comfortable stepping up into your own power and seeing yourself as an expert. I know that's been some of the work that we've done together. Do you remember some of those conversations of, you'd say, oh, I'm not really an expert. I'm like, Crystal, I mean, if you could hear what this woman has accomplished and what she knows, it's actually pretty amazing. And she is an expert. And I think I feel like you have gotten much better at really stepping into that. Are you feeling
Yeah,
that?
well, I think one of the things that, when you're so involved in what you're doing and you don't know all the answers. Part of it is, I'm sure you all know, all of a sudden you're like, I don't know what the answer for that is. I'm sure everybody's faced that. So you don't think of yourself as an expert. But it happened to me a couple of months ago. I realized, and I looked at my BlackBerry and I looked about who the people that I was working with in this field were. Mm-hmm. And I realized that maybe because I've been in this field for so long, but they are the experts, the world-renowned experts in this field, and they're in my BlackBerry. Yes. And all of a sudden it hit me, and I went, oh my God, I know the person who started the field, the person who's the head of the UN, who's responsible for putting together the next global treaty, is my mentor, and I used to work for her. So those are some pretty big connections, and all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, I guess I'm one of the visionaries.
I'm actually a someone too. I remember you kind of had that moment. You're like, wait a minute, I think maybe I'm kind of important too. You didn't even use that language. That was my language, but it was helping you see that shift because they might know a little bit more than Crystal. They don't know that much more. She knows a heck of a lot, and she's very, very good at what she does. So
not only are they in your BlackBerry, but guess what? You're in their BlackBerry.
Exactly.
So it was one of those things to kind of feel comfortable with. Oh man, I know the people, and that just made me feel, I'm like, oh, I can always ask them. And then what happened is I asked them, and they still didn't know the answers. And so that made me feel more comfortable as well, because I was like, we're all opening, this field together.
Yeah. And another thing, and just to finish up here with Crystal, that we did early on, and we do this with all of our clients now, is look at the different levels of your business and figure out kind of which of these levels. First of all, do you have enough levels? Generally, you want more than one level of business. And that rule fits differently for different people depending on what it is. But she had a project-based part of her business and then a consulting part. And so we looked at what are you more passionate about? Where's your real profit? Which area can you grow and make more money from? And is that something that you want to be doing? So one of the things we figured out was that rather than the big projects, the big risk-taking projects that you were doing, which was really stressing her out and is a huge risk, she wanted to really build the consulting part of her business. And so we put some pieces into place for that. So she's been doing great. Very proud of you.